Hello there, Mountain Crest Cougars. It's time for us to learn a little bit about the upcoming Burke County Speech Contest. The Burke County contest will be held in December, but our school contest will most likely be held in the middle of November. So we're going to start today and for the next couple of weeks working on choosing our pieces for the speech contest. Stay tuned for more information about how to make a good choice. The Burke County Speech Contest will be held December 16th. Our school, Mountain Crest Elementary Speech Contest, will be held November 18th. And each student in 4th and 5th grade will be participating in a classroom contest sometime before November 16th. The teacher in each homeroom can choose a winner from their classroom in each of the 4 categories that are going to be described in a few moments: prose, poetry, original composition, and notable speeches. Here at Mountain Crest, all of our 4th and 5th grade students will participate in the speech contest. We're going to work during our media classes for the next week or two to choose speeches. It's a good idea to choose your speech pretty quickly so that you can begin practicing. You have from now until the middle of November to get that speech memorized and to work on your presentation so you'll be ready for the contest. Most students who read about on grade level, that means that they have orange, black, or purple on their name tag, should choose a piece that is about 3 pages long. That way, when they're actually presenting their speech, it should fall into the category range of being from somewhere between 3 minutes and 7 minutes long. If you do not have orange, black, or purple on your name tag, you might be able to talk with your classroom teacher about choosing a piece that's a little shorter, that would be easier to memorize and more in match with your reading level. Students should choose their pieces for the speech contest as quickly as possible. They need to choose a piece that they really like, that makes sense to them, and that they won't mind spending time memorizing. They'll be given a paper copy of their speech, and they should carry this with them in their book bag so they can pull it out in class when they have time to study, on the bus, during bus duty, or even at home each day. If they spend about 15 minutes a day studying at school and maybe 15 minutes a day studying at home, they should have the speech memorized pretty quickly. While studying, they should break the piece up into parts or paragraphs and study one section each day until they can say that part from memory. And then ask family or friends to listen to them say that part, and letting the person listening give them some feedback about which parts they might need to practice some more. After 4 or 5 days, go ahead and work on all 4 or 5 parts you already have memorized, saying it all the way through from the beginning to the end of that section. Now let's talk about the different categories, different kinds of speeches you can choose. Prose and poetry are the easiest ones to memorize, but since lots of kids choose these 2 categories, you have to work a little bit harder to compete against more students if you want to be selected as one of the winners in your classroom and then go on and represent your classroom in the school speech contest. Prose is the first. It's the easiest. It's regular language like you were telling a story. It can be funny or serious, and you would have to memorize a piece or part of a play, a novel, a short story, or a narrative essay, and it has to be a published work. The best places to find that is in our library, in our easy section, or in the chapter books, in the fiction section, and you would just do one chapter or one section of a chapter book. During this presentation, students are not allowed to walk around. They can use their hands and their body in one position to add emphasis to their speech. It needs to be between 3 and 7 minutes long, and it needs to come from one piece of writing or one story. It can't be several stories cut apart and added together. Poetry is our second category in the speech contest. It's different from prose because it's not written in paragraph form with regular language the way we do when we tell a story. The definition of poetry is a genre that is comprised in or composed in metrical verse. That means it has some kind of rhythmical pattern, even if it doesn't rhyme. It's written in stanzas instead of paragraphs. It does have to come from a published work, and it follows the same rules as the prose category. You cannot walk around during the presentation, but you can use your body and your hand motions and your facial expressions to give meaning. The piece has to be memorized. It needs to be 3 to 7 minutes long, and it has to be chosen from just one poem, not a medley of poems put together. It says at least 75% of your speech must actually consist of the poem. That means you can have a little bit at the beginning as an introduction and a little bit at the end as a closing, but the majority of your presentation needs to actually be the poem. This is a new rule this year, so we need to make sure and pay attention to that. Original composition is the category that's more difficult because you have to write your own speech and then memorize it and present it for your class. Your speech needs to be written by the student, and it needs to be a topic appropriate for kids your age. It should be something that your children in your class want to hear and might be interested in learning about. The categories for movement are a little different. You can move around to emphasize a point. It's actually encouraged for you to take a few steps or to have more motion with your speech in this category. The speeches must be memorized, it must be 3 to 7 minutes long, and it must be age appropriate. Our last category is notable speeches. This involves memorizing a speech that was delivered sometime in history by a famous person with some significance or importance at a notable event. That means it has to be something important, not just a person standing up at their local Boy Scout group giving a speech. It needs to be something that would be publicized and maybe might be on television or on the news channel as something important that was said by somebody famous. You do have to memorize the piece. You are encouraged to walk around and give emphasis and meaning to your presentation, and it must be between 3 and 7 minutes long. The best place to choose these speeches is actually on the internet, and Miss Tu can help you in the library, or I can help you in the library to find some links to famous historical speeches. When I say historical, it doesn't mean it has to be from the past a long time ago. It could be from recent history as well. Okay, now what are the judges looking for? First, does your piece have a beginning? Did you stand up and introduce the piece by saying something about why you chose it, why it's important, why the audience should pay attention? Second, are you standing up straight and tall with good posture, looking out at the audience, looking confident? Third, do you have eye contact? Are you looking at the judges, at the audience, or are you looking straight down at the floor, all nervous and shaky? Number 4 is volume. Are you loud enough for the people in the room to hear you? And number 5 is speaking clearly, making sure the audience can understand each and every word that you're saying. Number 6 is inflection. Does your voice rise and fall like normal when you're speaking? Or are you talking in a monotone where your voice doesn't change at all and you sound like a robot? When we speak in normal tone, our inflection rises and falls, and it gives the audience something better, more comfortable to listen to. Number 7 is rate of delivery. Do you change the speed at which you're speaking, using pauses and other things to emphasize parts of the piece? For instance, if the poem is sad and mournful, you would speak slowly and have more pauses. If the character in a prose piece was all excited and couldn't wait to do something, you might speak faster and louder and with not very many pauses. Number 8, movements and gestures. The movements should be appropriate for the piece, not just hands moving around or arms or whatever. They should go along with the piece and it should make sense. It should add to the piece you're saying out loud. Number 9 is emotion and believability. Do you express the emotions through your face or your body that goes along with the emotion in the poem? And most importantly, number 10 is, do you actually have the piece memorized? Can you say it from beginning to end with confidence, without very much help? There will be someone standing nearby that has a copy of your piece, and if you do get stuck, you could look toward that person, either your teacher or a judge, and they'll tell you what's supposed to come next in case you've sort of lost track of where you're at in your piece. And that shouldn't happen very many times in order to get some higher points for memorization. To help students out choosing pieces in the Media Center, I've pulled several things onto this cart. What you can see on the top is pieces separated out into different categories, and I'll talk about those in a minute. In the middle is a hodgepodge of pieces that are not separated. You can go through these loose papers and choose one of those if you want to, and then with a sticky note write your name, your teacher's name, and put it on the bottom shelf of the cart so we can make a copy of this for you. You'll get 3 copies, 1 for you and 2 for your teacher. She needs to keep one or he needs to keep one, and the second extra copy is just in case you lose your piece. These 4 books placed on the cart are great choices for prose. They're actually written as monologues for speech contests. A monologue is a story that's told with only one voice. That means the person speaking is telling it in first person as if they are the character. Some of them are divided into speeches for boys and speeches for girls, and at the back speeches for boys or girls, because the piece of writing is told from the perspective of either a boy or a girl. I'll go ahead and tell you that some of the pieces in these books are not really appropriate for elementary school. You need to think carefully about whether you want to stand up and talk about the time you bought your first bra, or some of the jokes that boys happen to maybe do with each other in the boys' locker room. Those would not be appropriate for our school speech contest, but maybe middle school or high school students or even college students might choose to use those pieces. Think carefully, because you're going to have to say this speech in front of your parents, in front of your classmates, in front of your teacher. So you need to pick something that's not embarrassing or is going to distract from the judges when everybody in the whole room is laughing at you instead of at the speech. On the back side of the card, I have several books standing up tall between 2 bookends. Most of these are poetry, some of the better selections of poetry from our library. Remember, when you're choosing a poem, it needs to be very long, probably somewhere between 2 to 3 pages long, if you're one of those students who reads on grade level and should be able to choose a piece that's going to last 3 to 7 minutes when you're presenting. Some of the other pieces are easy reader selections from the back of our library. These are great for speeches because they're short. Most of the time there's not lots of speakers or lots of characters in the story, and they can be cut into pieces or put together in a way that makes it a great speech. If you need help choosing these, let me look at it, or let a teacher look at it and decide, does it have multiple characters? Would it be easy to convert into a monologue? If you choose one of the fiction books at the back in the easy reader section, you're going to end up probably doing most of that entire book. You still put your name on a note inside the book, and we will help you get it typed up onto a piece of paper so that you can practice just from a piece of paper instead of having to take the book out and turn the pages every time you're practicing or memorizing. This is the section of our library where we have our easy readers. It's in the back, close to the windows, on the bottom 2 shelves. The books are labeled with fiction and then the author's last name. The best way to find a book back here is just to sit down on the floor and start looking through them, looking for a story that you would enjoy and be able to memorize and present for your speech. One of the sections of our school webpage can be helpful for the speech contest. So open the Mountain Crest School page and look on the top where the tabs are, look for the tab that says Quick Links. The quick links will help you link to other important websites like our school media page. Once you open the Quick Links page, you'll notice there's a list of links running down the left-hand side of the page. The first link on this page is the Mountain Crest Media website link. Go ahead and click there. On our school web page, if you click on the Mountain Crest Media Center, there is a section that says Student Links. Once the Student Links section of our media page opens, you'll see folders. Each of these folders contains website links for different subjects. One of the folders is for the speech contest, and in this section you'll see 3 different links that will help get you to some famous historical speeches that could be used for the notable speech category in our school speech contest. There's also a link that says 2015 Speech Contest Participant Survey. This is used to list the pieces that you have chosen. Starting next week in Media Center, we'll have computers up and I'll ask you to put in your name, your teacher's name, the name of the piece that you're using, and the source that that piece came from, just in case you happen to lose your copy of the speech and we have to pull the books back out or pull the website back up to print another copy. Once you choose a piece, you're going to write down the title of the piece on one of the note cards at your table. You're going to write the page numbers that you need copies of. You're also going to write your teacher's name and your name. And then you're going to place that note into the book that you're choosing or into the folder that the speech came from, and make sure we can see the note sticking out the top of the book. Like this. Your slip of paper needs to stick up far enough from the top of the book that we can notice it when we're getting ready to make copies. These books or folders that you want copies made from need to go on the bottom shelf of the cart, and then the ladies that are in charge of our speech contest will take these up to the copy machines and make copies for you and for your teacher.